we will be recording it, so just let you know that, and we have got a YouTube channel that we'll put it up on. If you've got any questions, all our speakers can talk a bit, so we need to keep them for time. So questions, if you want to put any questions in the chat, which if you've not used Zoom before, just have a little play. There's a little chat icon, and you can type it in there sort of to everyone. And then I think Georgia and Roz in my team will pick out some questions for us at the end of all the speakers. If we don't get to any, we might do a bit of a Q&A with some of the speakers and post it on a YouTube channel, which we'll send you a link to afterwards. Like I say, it's our first ever virtual hub visit, so we'll also do a survey at the end to sort of ask you how you thought it went and stuff we can do to make it better. I've written down what is a hub, and basically a hub is sort of one of our major offices around the country, but they do everything in the hubs. So we do everything from sort of campaigning and fundraising to sort of frontline service delivery and sort of on the telephone lines and everything in our hubs. So they really are where everything happens for shelter in the community. A lot of people that we've got here on the call have done some fundraising for us recently. We had people that took part in the 2.6 challenge, where people did everything from we had young Ronan who ran 2.6 miles a day for a month. People that have done a dance-a-thon and live streaming them for 4 hours, running up and down the stairs, or traveling from John O'Groats to Land's End by running, by cycling, by bike, and even by mobility scooter, and many, many more. And just want to say very quickly, thank you all so much for your support. We're really, really grateful, and Shelter can't do its work without you. You don't need to hear any more from me. So what I'd like to do is pass over to the amazing John Ryan, who is our hub manager for Manchester, and he'll tell you best about what we do there. Over to you, John. You're on mute, John.
Now that was a great start, wasn't it? Can you hear me now? Good stuff. Right, good morning everyone, and thank you. I don't think I've ever been bigged up that much before as being amazing, but hey, I'll take it. So I'm John Ryan. I'm the manager of Shelter in Greater Manchester. So that means I manage all of our services across Greater Manchester and all the work that we do. It isn't just about me. There's a team of over 70 staff with volunteers and peer mentors and numerous others who all help us achieve the mission of Shelter. And for those who don't know, what we believe at our heart is that a home is a human right. And I don't know if you can imagine how this crisis that we're in at the moment would have felt if you didn't have a home where you could have retired to and you could have self-isolated and you could protect yourself and your family. If that wasn't the case for you and you didn't have that safe place, just imagine what this might have felt like. It might have felt very different for many of us. I know I'm very grateful for the fact that I've got a place where I can be safe and secure. And I know that I feel very proud to be supporting and helping people to find that safe place and that secure place. And with that in mind, Shelter exists to defend the right to a safe home. And that's our purpose, our mission. And we strive for that change, working with individuals and with communities and across society at large. We believe we can make some of the biggest changes if we learn from the individuals that we help, and if we support our communities to have a voice, and then we use that to influence policy across the country, so we get the biggest change that then helps more people. And that's really our aim. We want to help people more. So defend the right to a safe home, striving for change, and helping people more. Some of the key issues that we're facing, we were already in before we entered the COVID-19 crisis. We were already in a housing emergency. And this for us was something that was really very real to us, certainly very real to the people that we support and we help every day. But coming out of this crisis, and as you've seen, things are beginning to shift. But we're already predicting major issues around affordability going forward for people who maybe have lost their jobs, and there's potentially hundreds of thousands of people in that position. That debt's going to be on the increase, which affects the way people are going to be able to afford their home. Welfare benefits, and people are now who didn't previously rely on welfare benefits are now having to. Private rented sector affordability and conditions. Again, usually at the lower end of the private rented sector, but there are major issues for people facing there. The use of temporary accommodation for people, it was already at crisis point again before COVID-19. We're really worried that's going to increase. And then you'll all have possibly heard about rough sleeping and the way that, that there's been this massive move to get people off the streets and into hotels, into places of safety. But the big issue now is what happens next. And again, shelter is right at the center of that debate and influence, just to make sure that people don't end up going back on the streets, so that we can support people going forward and making a massive difference. And the money that you raise in whatever way that you've done that, and the money that you've given to shelter, is what helps us do this. So thank you once again. I'll just give a little breakdown of just kind of some of the things that we do. I've been stuck to 10 minutes. I'll try and stick to that. But we have advice, support and guidance and legal work that we do. So we help people every day who are facing some of the key issues that I've just talked about. And some of those people end up in court because things catch up with them. They bury their heads in the sand. They simply can't afford because their life has changed so much. And what we do is we represent people. And if we represent people, we can prevent eviction in over 90% of cases, which is massive for people because it's about retaining that safe, secure place to live, and then dealing with the issues that got them into the problem. For many people, those issues now are issues that are simply not of their making. It's the environment around them. What was affordable yesterday when they were working is not affordable today when they're not. So that's our kind of legal services. We run second tier advice services, and that's advice services that we help give advice to other organizations that are going to be helping people face to face, so we can support them to give the right advice at the right time, which is vitally important. We also run other services like Housing First, where again, there's a massive move across the world really to say that a home is a human right. And if it's a human right, then actually what you really need in Maslow's hierarchy of needs says we start off with shelter. We need shelter. And from that, we can build from there. And so Housing First works on those principles. And we've helped innumerate people over the last 3 years to rebuild their lives, not just to get a home, but to rebuild their lives. I've seen real examples I can think of a couple of people just off the top of my head who not only rebuilt their lives, but reconnected with their families, reconnected in a way that changed the way they viewed the future. And that for me is just massive. You can't buy that. Fair Housing Futures is a test and learn project that we have within Shelter. That's funded by the Nationwide Foundation, and we're really grateful to them for the work that we do in Greater Manchester. But the aim of that really is to make private rented sector fair for all. And we're working on a test and learn project with other organisations, and we're funding them, or the Nationwide Foundation is funding them through the Fair Housing Futures project to be able to test and learn how we could do things differently, what might work for the private rented sector. The Entrenched Sleeper Service is yet another service that we've run for the last 3 years, and we've seen over 180 people who'd slept on the streets, and I'm sure every one of you has seen people sleeping on the streets, and the issues that they face. When you're that low, it's really hard to get up again. And what the Entrenched Sleeper Service does is helps people get back off the streets, back into a home, and back into a place of safety, and again, a place where they can rebuild their lives. We have one particular individual, and you might be seeing something of him later in a video. I'm not sure which videos we've got, but he was sitting when he was homeless, Before he was being helped by entrenched rough sleeper service, and he was sitting on a field looking up at some flats and saying, well, I wish I could have one of those. What I really need is a place to stay. And months later, after working with shelter, he ended up in one of those very flats that he looked up at and longed for. And that's really very, very so important to us. You know, what makes me tick is the fact that we can help so many people who've struggled so much in their lives, and people who are so vulnerable, that we can help them get back on their feet and change their lives for the better. And that's really important for what makes me come to work every day. We also do community organising, which is really important and powerful. So we work with communities across Greater Manchester, and what we do is we identify power within those communities, common issues, and the power within that. We identify leadership within that as well, and then we empower them to then begin to deal and challenge those issues that they're facing. Very much people facing affordability issues, people issues with disrepair in their homes, or simply just finding a home. You all know about Community Fundraising and Lindsay, one of our amazing community fundraisers. And I just want to end my 10 minutes really by saying a massive thank you to every single one of you. We couldn't do this without the support of thousands, dare I say hundreds of thousands of people who are helping us every day, who give of their own time, who volunteer to raise money for shelter, for our corporate partners who give to shelter. And I just want to thank you, every one of you, all that you've heard about me and what Shelter Greater Manchester is doing. And that can be replicated across any of our hubs within England. Couldn't be done unless you helped us. So thank you. And that's me. Any questions?
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. If you've got any questions for John, put them in the chat, please. That would be amazing. And the story John was talking about, we have got on a film, and we'll share it in the follow-up email that we'll send everybody afterwards, because it's a bit long. But we have got a film we'd like to show you just now, which is about our community organising in Manchester. It's not.
No, it's Reese. It's Reese's film, and Reese was one of the people who we still work with, and hopefully Emma will be able to cue that in for us now. It's just a minute long.
Thank you.
Bear with me, some technical sharing of screens. 2 seconds.
We're playing Zoom bingo today. It doesn't look like we've got sound, but at least there are some subtitles, so please follow with that. Thank you. Oh, Max,
thanks, Emma.
there you go.
Thank you. Sorry about the lack of sound there, but thanks, Emma. And now I'd like to hand over to the also amazing Davy MacIver from our Glasgow hub.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Max. And I actually am frequently described as amazing, so that's typical for me. Okay, guys, I want to try and give a slightly different perspective to John, because I'm the hub manager in Glasgow, and we do a lot of the same things that John has just described. I don't want to repeat some of the messages that John's given us, which are passionately delivered, and I think that's the way we all feel at Shelter. And it's been my experience in the last 6 years. I've never worked in a place where people really hold the values and the mission so close to their heart. And the current team I'm involved with in this last period have just shown that in an incredible way that's made me really, really proud as the Glasgow Hub Manager. What I'm going to do is give a wee Scottish perspective. I'm going to talk a wee bit about Glasgow. I'm going to talk a wee bit about a campaign we ran last year. I'll finally talk about our response to the current pandemic. So in Scotland, we're also part of the wider Shelter family, but we operate in a different environment up here in Scotland because we have a different legal system up here, and housing is a devolved matter. So we face different challenges, and we have a different relationship to the government, and we have a different relationship to other services in Scotland. So we have a slightly different experience, and I'd like to think we've, in some cases, we've got a more positive story to tell as a housing sector. John was talking about rights, and in Scotland, Shelter have worked really hard over the last 20 years to ensure that those rights are legal rights that can be enforced, and in some cases we've have things in law that are yet to be the case in England, and we are always at the forefront of pushing that forward, and I'll come back to talk about that when we're talking about our response to COVID. But in Scotland, we've got 4 hubs. We've got one in Glasgow, Edinburgh, Dundee and Aberdeen. They're all relatively small. I think many of the English hubs are significantly bigger than the Scottish operations. But for a few people, we have a lot of impact and a lot of reach, and we've got a really big voice. And as John rightly pointed out, that more and more the voice we have is the voice of the service users we work with, and not our professional voice, and we've realised that there's real power and authority coming from those we work with, and we're trying to amplify that every day. We also run a separate help desk here in Scotland, responding to advice queries over the phone, and increasingly so through online chat. And we dealt with over 23,000 cases last year through those means. Another, well, it depends how you count them, but another almost 3,000 complex advice cases over the same period. And we've got several second-tier services providing advice to professionals. So we've got quite a small group of people serving a huge audience here in Scotland. Excuse me. We also have a separate Scottish legal service up here, and I think it was, I just want to touch on a point John raised there. The success rate of our legal service is actually unbelievable. If someone makes a connection with our legal service about an eviction, it's almost guaranteed that that eviction will be successfully defended. We've got solicitors working on our team who have had almost 0 failures or defeats over long periods. You're going back years. The results are incredible, and the dedication and the long hours are what produces that. And it's the funding we receive from our supporters that makes that happen. There's a real connection there between what you're doing in the 2.6 challenge and someone walking out of court still having a house. There's a direct line between those two things, and I just want to underline that. I just think about my experience as the Glasgow Hub Manager and some of the experiences of our team. I'll try and tell you what we do, some of the feedback we've had, some of the things that I've seen and I see on a daily basis. In Glasgow, we have a large office with 6 different teams, not all running advice services for which I'm responsible, but we also have our national helpline based there. We've got part of our legal team, we've got part of our fundraising team, we've got part of our volunteer coordination team. We have a community organiser, and we have our Time for Change team working with those with lived experience of homelessness, all working in one place and now working virtually to the same end and complementing each other. Our advice team, for whom I'm responsible, are the most incredible group of people I have ever worked with. They have passion, expertise, and they've got a value base that sees them always pursue what is right and what is someone's right. As John was talking about, we absolutely believe in a right to a safe home, and that's what we do all day, every day. And we do not stop until that is secured. And what I love about my team is they give me and everyone else that they come into contact with an endlessly hard time, because they don't take no for an answer, and they don't take second prizes. They're not interested in that. They want the best possible outcome for their clients. And it's in a funny sense, since we've all moved virtually, that's become more apparent to me as the manager, because the way we have to connect and where we review each other's work. And it's been an amazing thing for me to watch over this last period. I think a little bit about our Time for Change service here, which has been running in some iteration or another for about 4 years, where we originally had the idea to engage people who had experience of homelessness in Glasgow, and that quickly morphed into a central ethos of how we work here. And so now we've had a large number of trainees, as we call them up here, people who have had lived experience of homelessness come to work with our team on a voluntary basis, and who deliver our services, who deliver our messages, who shape our services, who shape our messages, and who've then extended their reach out, not only into the community, but in shelter internally and even nationally. The Glasgow team has been really influential in promoting the ethos of participation of folk with lived experience of the issues we're trying to tackle. I'm thinking about something that's been really close to our heart in Glasgow, and a bit of work that really exemplifies some of the best bits of shelter. I want to tell you a wee bit about something that unfolded over the last 4 years in Glasgow, sort of coming to a culmination at the end of last year, and that was our People versus Glasgow legal campaign. And I'll try and give you this in simple terms. Over the last 20 years, we think Glasgow City Council, where we're situated, have been denying people their legal rights on what we would describe as an industrial scale. Multiple thousands of people denied their legal right to safe temporary housing. And we had been working, gathering evidence and trying to construct legal arguments on this topic for 4 years, without break, quietly, persistently, behind the scenes, before we built a case that we could then turn into something real. And so last year we launched a campaign with every part of shelter involved: legal services, campaigns, fundraising, local services, and people with lived experience right at the heart of that. And we launched a legal action and associate campaign against the council to change this practice, because, as John said, what we're about is change. We want things to be better. We don't want things to be the same, and we don't take no for an answer. And that's why we push this unprecedented, novel legal action. It was extremely complicated in terms of the actual detailed legal case, which I won't bore you with, and it's rather technical, but the thrust of the argument was about what is right and what is legally right, and that's what we pursued. And it made us unpopular, and it put us into a very uncomfortable space in the city, but it was right, and it was in the end incredibly effective, because what it produced was a review of Glasgow City Council's homeless services, and this is a legal review with real teeth and power from the relevant statutory body here in Scotland. And we're hoping, as that report comes out later this summer, that is going to be the first step to real change regarding this practice. And it also saw shelter doing what it does best, which is speaking out against what's wrong, and being bold and being brave, and not being afraid of what everyone was going to say. And that when I went to meetings in the city, everyone didn't like me anymore, but we just really pushed that. And it's just something I was really, really proud of. And it was a real focus for us. If you can imagine a team of about 50 people convulsed by one activity for 6 months, that's what this campaign was. We were so committed to it, and it was really incredible to be part of that. And again, no one else is doing that. We don't have competitors in the sector who are doing this. There aren't other organisations leading on that. That's what we do, and that's what we do best. And again, there's a direct line between the fundraising that you all do and us being able to do that. So I just need to thank you for that, because I think this, although it's an ongoing process, could provoke a change that would affect literally thousands of people. So that's a bit about Glasgow. Thinking about more recently, in Scotland, we were in a very advantageous position around how we responded to the pandemic, because we had an ability to switch to home working almost instantaneously. I mean, we literally went home on Monday the 16th and turned on our computers and were up and running on Monday the 17th of March. We were well prepped for this, and our advice services have been at the forefront of that. And incredibly, even though our usual referral routes have been completely cut off, I mean, our offices don't exist, our connection to the cities where we operate don't exist. Even though that's been the case, through other channels and through us creating new methods of people contacting us, our advice has continued at the same, and in some cases even expanded levels. So we're still there, we're still reaching folk in need. And I think John's absolutely right. We are under no illusions about what is coming. This situation is going to get worse, and people are going to see their finances and their housing come under tremendous pressure, and we're going to be there to help them through that, and we're already planning for that. And the response of not just my team, but I can talk directly about my team to this situation has been incredible. They're all cramped in a stool in their kitchen with a tiny little screen, with a mouse that sometimes works, and a poor internet connection. But you know, in which we're trying to fix that, but it doesn't matter. They're still working as hard. They're still doing the hours, and they're still getting incredible outcomes for people. I think one thing I just wanted to focus on, just as an example, was that here in Scotland, like across England actually, homeless people have been put into hotels during the pandemic as a public health response. But what we're saying very, very clearly is that we're not going back to what was happening before. We're going forward, and these people are leaving to housing outcomes, not to the streets, not to abandoned buildings. They're leaving to housing outcomes, and that's what we're doing. So we've got a project. We've got a small bit of funding for here in Glasgow, between ourselves, a local immigration legal service. We're working with a welfare rights specialist legal service, our own legal service, and my advice team, and a range of support organisations. And we're working with all of the individuals in the large hotel that's been used in Glasgow. And we're saying these people aren't coming out to nothing. We're case working on its own merits, on its own legal arguments, and producing absolutely incredible outcomes. We've already turned around a large number of these cases into what will be positive housing outcomes, and we're only a few weeks into this. It's absolutely incredible. So that's just an example of what we're doing. All of that happens because of what you guys have done for us. Direct line. It's not complicated. That's the only way that happens, is through the work you guys have done for us, fundraising. So that's it from me. Thank you. I'm going to leave you with a quote, well, a paraphrase, because I won't give you the full quote, so I don't have time. But we did a hub update for internally to talk about what we have been up to during the lockdown period. But what I wanted to say was that we're viewing the current pandemic period in as positive as possible a light. What we're saying is that these unprecedented conditions are creating a situation where we can all have a collective mental leap that we're not going back. This is the start of a new future, and the right to safe housing and equality is back at the centre of that. So that's the starting point for the time to come. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Davy. And just picking up on what Dave was saying about the people that work for Shelter. So I've been at Shelter for only 8 weeks, and I've actually not met any of my team or anybody else in person. But I can utterly attest to the fact that everybody's so passionate about the work of Shelter and helping people directly. And one of the reasons I wanted to join Shelter from my previous charity is my partner's worked for Shelter for the last 20 years on that, supporting people first on helplines and then sort of face-to-face in people's homes. She's still doing that now during lockdown. She's usually in this room that I'm in now, but she's got a day off today, and yeah, so you know, the passion and persistence of the people that are working for Shelter is second to none. Really, really amazing. We're going to try another film. It's 3 minutes long. If it doesn't have any sound, we'll skip it. And it's a film about an event called Sleepwalk Manchester. It was a fundraising
Glasgow,
event.
Max.
Sorry, I'm getting all my facts wrong today. I did make some notes, believe it or not. Sleepwalk Glasgow, which was a fundraiser, but also was an amazing event to raise awareness about the issue of homelessness and a way for individuals and organisations across the city to really stand together. So cue film, is that what I say?
Yep, bear with me again, 2 seconds.
Have we got sound?
No sound, I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll send
mind.
you the links. They all worked in our rehearsal, so apologies for that. But we'll send the links in an email afterwards. So instead, I'll hand over to the absolutely wonderful Ruth Francis, who is the service manager for Inspiring Change in Manchester, which is an amazing service. And yeah, over to you, Ruth.
Thank you, Max. Good morning, everyone. Really nice to be here today to speak to you all. My name's Ruth. I'm the service manager for Inspiring Change Manchester, or ICM as we refer to it. ICM is funded by the Big Lottery as part of the Fulfilling Lives programme. 6 years ago, the Big Lottery, as part of their community fund, launched the Fulfilling Lives programme to 12 areas across the country to support people facing multiple disadvantage and multiple complex needs. In Manchester, Shelter, along with some partners, was awarded the funding. We've been going now for 6 years and we have another 2 years left. And the aim of Fulfilling Lives programme and of ICM is to work with people who are facing multiple disadvantage, and that includes things such as experiencing homelessness, contact with the criminal justice system, experiencing domestic abuse, problems with drug and alcohol, and mental health issues. So in Manchester with ICM, we have 2 teams. We have the programme team, which are based within John Ryan's Manchester hub, and they're looking at the evidence and the research about working with people differently with multiple complex needs. They also manage the relationship with the Big Lottery, as well as doing lots of other things. Myself as the service manager, I sit within the delivery team of ICM, and we're based up at the ICM hub, which is across the city from the Shelter Manchester hub, so about a 20-minute walk. And we have the ICM hub, which we're very lucky to have. It's a great space, it's a community space, and it houses the ICM delivery team, as well as is a space for the ICM members. We work with approximately 150 people at any one time who are experiencing multiple disadvantage. And the hub is really a place for them to come in and get the support they need from the ICM team. The ICM delivery team is made up of myself as the service manager, of the ICM shelter engagement team, which is made up of 5 staff. We have 4 staff in the ICM Housing First team. And we also work with our partners at the ICM hub, who are community-led initiatives who provide us with peer mentors, all of whom who have lived experience, who work with the shelter teams and the members at the hub. We work with self-help services who provide us with a mental health coordinator who provides low-level mental health support to people. And we also work with Back on Track. So we have a couple of members of Back on Track who sit within the ICM hub and support people with things like education, training and employment opportunities. So together we all work as one big sort of delivery team, and within that delivery team there is people who have lived experience and people who have other experience of working in services another professional experience. And together, that mixture of people makes for a really exciting, dynamic, a really passionate team of people who are able to build really positive relationships with people, being able to share their experiences of being perhaps in similar situations and walking in a similar journey to people. So that really helps to create an atmosphere, a welcoming atmosphere at the hub, and to be able to engage with the people that come to us for help and support. Of the 150 people that we work with at any one time, approximately 100 get what we call intensive support from engagement workers, so meeting and seeing people once a week, and then approximately 50 people are on what we call the lesser intensive. So they're people that have perhaps got to a place where there's some stability and moved on in their journey a little bit, so they don't need as much support, but they're still able to come to the hub and drop in and access all the things that the hub provides and has to offer. And what we do at the hub is a combination of practical and emotional support. So it's a real combination of supporting people with practical things such as accessing accommodation, accessing housing, getting on the housing register, being supported to present at the town hall if they are homeless, getting into private rented accommodation, things like helping them sort out the benefits, access support from drug and alcohol services, and a whole range of sort of practical things that we support people with, helping them to set up home when we are successful in obtaining accommodation with people. And the other thing we do is really around emotional support, supporting people to build confidence, build positive relationships with other people. So first and foremost with their engagement work and with the peer mentors, but also with other people that come to the hub. So for that reason as well, and because we kind of have an asset-based approach, which also focuses on what people can do and what people want to do and what people are interested, as well as looking at perhaps what they need support with, what do they want to do, what do they enjoy doing. We have a whole range of activities that we put on every week at the hub. So we run about 9 activities a week. They range from things such as the exchange group, which takes place on a Tuesday evening, where people can come in and access food, or a quiz is one of the big favourites. People love taking part in the quiz. They'll watch a film, they have cinema trips. In the summer, they go to the local park and they play rounders. So a real combination of things at the exchange group. On a Wednesday evening, we have the Women's Voices chill out session. That's a session which is just for women. And they come to the hub, and again, it's for food, it's to come and have a chat, watch a film. They've had pajama parties, which is one thing that they wanted to do one week, where they all kind of came and put the pajamas on and had watched a film. And they do things like celebrating International Women's Day together. We have an art and wellbeing group, which is on a Friday afternoon, a 2-hour session where people come and take part in art therapy and art and wellbeing. We have groups like the Give It a Go group, which does below-level English and math sessions with people, with a view to them then going on and perhaps doing a course with Back on Track, so sort of like taster sessions. We have a tea and biscuits morning, which is run by the peer mentors, when people can just literally come and drop in and get a cup of tea. And we have a moving forward group, which has been set up in the last few months, which was requested by some of our members who were actually addressing the drug and alcohol issues and wanting to really think about moving forward with their lives and what was going to be the next thing for them. So they requested, and they've set up a group that meets fortnightly to look at sort of how they're going to go forwards with some of the changes that they've already made in their lives. So they're kind of some of the groups and activities that we do have on at the hub. Obviously, over the last 10 weeks since lockdown, we've had to make some big changes around that. The hub closed 10 weeks ago, and all the team have been working from home, but they've been working really creatively. So for example, all those contacts now are taking place over the phone with people. We've purchased phones for people. We've purchased smartphones for people so that we're able to have video chats and video link-ups so people can still feel connected. We've set up virtual groups, so there's been virtual Women's Voices meetings where the Zoom invites have been sent out and people have been supported to access the Zoom and get on the call and see each other's faces. There's an art and wellbeing group has now gone virtual, so that meets once a week, people coming on and they're doing sort of a programme over the next few weeks of art and how they're feeling during lockdown, so kind of quite therapeutic sessions coming together to do that. Also supporting people again with some of the more sort of urgent things, supporting people to get into accommodation. We've worked with the council, we've set up a contract with a local taxi firm so that we're able to support people to get to the accommodation. We had recently a father and son who were sleeping rough that we supported together to get into accommodation, using the taxi company with that and being really creative. We've built our relationships with lots of the food aid providers across the city, providing food parcels and coordinating all that for people, supporting people with gas and electric, one particular gentleman who was struggling in his accommodation, so working creatively and supporting him to get the gas and electric switched on. We have a flexible fund that we can tap into. We are lucky at a small pot of money that we can use to support people with kind of meaningful use of time while they're in lockdown. So for example, sending out art materials to people and things like adult colouring books have been really popular, and people have enjoyed doing that. One other example that springs to mind is there's a lady that we support who is in a wheelchair, and she expressed to her engagement worker that obviously she's not able to get out at the moment, so she's not kind of doing any exercise at all, any form of exercise. So her engagement worker arranged for a video call where they accessed a YouTube exercise video, but they did it together and they could see each other, and the lady was in her wheelchair and the engagement worker was sat in a chair at home and they were doing like armchair exercises together, and the lady really enjoyed it and they started to do that as a weekly thing now. We've set up a book reading club, which was set up by one of our growth trainees. So a few people are reading the same book, and we sent those books out to people. So people coming together and discussing the book. And we did support one gentleman a couple of weeks ago, which was a real positive story, into his own rented accommodation, which was quite a challenge during lockdown, but speaking to other agencies able to support him to get some furniture into that accommodation and actually move into his own private rented flat. So lots of creative work still being done in challenging circumstances, and the team sort of really being flexible around that and supporting people in creative ways. And obviously the next thing for us hopefully will be at some point getting back into the hub. People are missing it, and we're going to sort of start plans to do that and sort of look at that, what's going to mean going forwards. But I hope that's given you a good idea of some of the stuff we do at ICM. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Ruth. Thanks for that. And yeah, I'm just thinking about stuff you were saying there about resourcefulness and creativeness of the teams. And I was just reminded that one of our housing support line workers was stranded in Pakistan due to sort of the lockdown, coronavirus-related lockdowns around the world, and you know, refused to be put off, and actually took helpline calls on his laptop, sat on a roof of a hotel in Pakistan whilst waiting for it to be returned home, which was pretty amazing. And that sort of resourcefulness and creativity, totally seen from all you guys and all the other guys that have been fundraising for us and supporting us generally over the last 2 or 3 months, and during 2 or 3 months of lockdown, where we can't go out and, well, we couldn't go out and run 26 miles, but people did run 2.6 miles around their garden or up and down their stairs, and that sort of resourcefulness and creativity, and I think passion from you guys and guys like you to support shelter and to fight homelessness is amazing. and we're so honoured and grateful for that. And one of the things, a couple of things I just want to leave you with is that what and I know the rest of the guys would really like to do is sort of try and build a movement to fight homelessness, to build a movement to fight homelessness and to help people at risk of homelessness. And hopefully, maybe after some of the stuff you've heard today, you'd like to join us in that movement. We'll send a survey afterwards to ask you about sort of that and how this has gone. It'd also be what I'd really love is if you could tell us why you support Shelter, why you have supported Shelter, and why you've done what you did, and why you've done what you've done to support Shelter. And what I'd really love is if you could get your mobile phone and film yourself for 30 seconds to a minute, just saying, this is why I decided to support Shelter, and this is what I did. That would be really amazing. And I think, you know, it would really help us understand why people support Shelter. And we just love to hear from you. We just love to hear your stories. So we'll send a reminder in the email that we'll send afterwards. We've also got a few other things that you could get involved with if you like. We have a virtual quiz, and our shops are starting to reopen. So if you've been decluttering at home, there's a chance, hopefully soon, to take stuff to our charity shops. And you can also do it without taking it to shops. There's a really cool sort of a link with Zipit where you can donate books and CDs and games and things like that, without having to go to shops at the moment. But we'll send you all the information about that. We don't have any questions in the chat, but do feel free to get in touch with us about anything at all, even if it's just for a chat. I think that's everything I need to say. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for our speakers. Thanks for supporting Shelter. We're really grateful for all your support. And do send us, do that video and send it us. We'd love to see what you think. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone. Bye.